Welcome to the webinar presentation on coordinating council, district, and unit religious emblems coordinators. Our presenter today is Chip Turner. Chip is the P.R.A.Y Director of Communication and Training, and he has done tremendous work in supporting the new REC positions, and he has been developing these training opportunities. Chip serves as the chair of the National Religious Relationships of the Boy Scouts of America, so he has a wealth of knowledge and a lot of experience to share with us. So, Chip, thanks for being with us today, and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Deb. We certainly are glad to have everyone joining us as we talk about, if you've been on some of our other webinars, we talked about the idea that you really are pioneers in this whole process of the Religious Emblems Coordinator, particularly now the Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator. But I am happy to tell you that this is a growing, there's a lot of interest, growing interest in this, and thank you for helping us move this forward, because ultimately our focus is, of course, the Scout and family, and we believe that can really make a difference in their lives. But I thought I might start with a quick reminder about Religious Emblem Coordinator selection and responsibilities, because we're going to be dealing for the vast majority of this on how you can coordinate council, district, and unit. So let's think for a moment. The Council Religious Emblems Coordinator serves on the Council Advancement Committee and is appointed by the Vice President. Now that may be done differently in some councils, but that's the suggested plan, and they worked with this committee to set the goals for religious emblems, and then of course they want to coordinate and disseminate that information to the district RECs, and they do that in a variety of ways, through training of various sorts, professional staff, College of Commissioner Science, University of Scouting, new leader orientation, new leader training, even programs at summer camp and so forth, and even camporees. So there are a variety of ways of doing that. And we just simply want to point out that when you think of the Religious Emblem Coordinator for the Council, if the Religious Relationships Committee works primarily with the faith community, then the REC focuses specifically on raising awareness of religious emblems and increasing usage. We'll talk more about this in a few moments when we get to the Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator, of how we work even with the unit chaplain. So at the council level, that does not mean that these folks do not relate and work with each other, but the focus of the REC is going to be raising awareness of religious emblems and, of course, ultimately increasing usage. There's a lot that can be learned through the interface with the Religious Relationships Committee and the faith committees, and find out when they're sponsoring retreats and when they're offering classes. So there are a lot of things that can be learned there. If you happen to be a district religious emblems coordinator, you're aware that you were probably appointed by the district program chair, and you set goals with the district program chair and the committee. And then you certainly will disseminate that information to the units using all kinds of tools. Some of the ones that have been suggested are recharter packets, roundtables, and camporees. The district REC encourages unit committees to set goals, that is the number of religious emblems that will be earned, and specifically on the unit committee, the Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator. The district REC also recruits presenters to make presentations and asks clergy of chartered partner groups and leaders to promote religious emblems, and now with the help of the Unit Religious Emblem Coordinator and, of course, the unit chaplains. You're probably aware now of the Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator, and this really kind of completes the package. This person is a member of the unit committee, and they have prime responsibility for acquainting all the youth with the Religious Emblems program and the emblems that are available from their faith group. A week does not go by without me discussing with someone how few religious emblems are being presented versus how many could be. And a key part of that is to make sure that the youth are aware of the awards, because they will be interested at that point. Another responsibility, make sure that the family and the clergy have an orientation to religious emblems programs and encourage their involvement. I would mention that there is another upcoming webinar about presentations that can be made to universities of scouting and powwows, but also could be in an abbreviated form to the parents. There may be a parents' night meeting. Those resources will be out very, very soon, next few weeks as a matter of fact. But also to urge the youth in the unit to earn the religious emblems, to disseminate the information to the scouts and scouters about district or council opportunities, maybe religious emblems, camps, retreats, and so forth. I feel like this is kind of sounds like a promotion, and I suppose it is, that we will also have a couple of webinars in the first part of the year dealing specifically with how to prepare for and budget for and calendar and enlist some of these special activities. So watch for those. Then number 6, to promote religious emblems usage like BSA promotes other youth advancement. That's really not a far-fetched thought at all. As a matter of fact, it has the support of the BSA programming folks. And we all know that as youth get involved, not only are they enriched, but it contributes to the longevity of the unit, the strength of the unit. So there are many reasons that make that a good idea. Then coordinate the establishment of goals and track the number of religious emblems completed every year. Finally, serve as the unit liaison to the district religious emblems coordinator. Perhaps you knew these, but I thought this would be good for us to review prior to talking about the coordination. Now, I've put together a graphic here that I hope is helpful, not confusing. As some of you that are sitting there watching this think, well, I can possibly copy all that down. We will be posting this webinar very, very soon at praypub.org. And you can get all of this. But here's some of the gist of what I'm talking about. The Council Religious Emblems Coordinator has a number of responsibilities, and you see arrows going in a variety of directions. The yellow circle, that's simply representing all kinds of special events, and those will vary by council. But
hey, Chip.
Notice an arrow.
Hey, Chip.
Yes?
Yes. I'm not seeing your PowerPoint. I don't know if other people
let's see
out.
here.
Are you?
If you're not seeing it, maybe some others are not. Let's try here and make sure that we are. We do seem to not be moving forward here. Let me check and see what might be the situation. Some of the modern excitement of technology kicked in here, I think.
Okay.
Are we back?
Yes.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Well, no one knows what happened there, but it just keeps us on our toes. The diagram, you see the Council Religious Emblems Coordinator and 3 large arrows. Obviously, the Council Advancement Committee, they are not only working with, but member of the Council Advancement Committee. And then we've already mentioned the Religious Relationships Committee and the faith community. And at the bottom, the various sources of religious emblems usage statistics. I'm happy to tell you that this is a growing list at the bottom of ways of getting information on religious emblems. I just talked to one of the major faith groups just a few months ago, as a matter of fact. You probably know that P.R.A.Y. Produces and distributes the P.R.A.Y. emblems, and also do that for some other groups as well. So a wide variety of information is already made known to every council every quarter, and you just simply need to determine who that person is that has that information. It's also on the website. So there are ways of getting that. Then for the Catholic emblems, the Catholic Committee on Scouting for the Diocese or the Archdiocese generally has that information. They would be glad to work with you. And then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they are actively pursuing now a creation of LDS BSA relationships committees in every council, and the chairman of that committee would be an excellent source for LDS information. So anyway, the council REC is charged with doing those things. And then an arrow, a two-way arrow, as you would notice, they can be a lot of help in enlisting and training district religious emblems coordinators. Obviously, are organizing, coordinating the setting of council and district goals, working with the district RECs, and they're securing data on religious emblems earned, as I mentioned earlier, and sharing that with the district REC. So that's the council Religious Emblems Coordinator, and then the District Religious Emblems Coordinator links in, as we just talked about, to the two-way arrow on the left, both sending and receiving from the Council Religious Emblems Coordinator. Two major arrows, one to the District Advancement Committee because, of course, the District REC is a member of that committee. And then an arrow to roundtables, leader events, and trainings, a variety of things there where the District REC links in immediately to that grouping. Then this person also has a two-way arrow because they encourage the units to select Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator and to do training. The district and unit goals are closely tied to working with the URECs. And also the URECs can share data on emblems earned in the unit. So that is another way of verifying how many emblems were actually earned as they progress toward meeting the goal. And then finally, the Unit Religious Emblems Coordinator has three arrows. The PAC, Troop, or Crew Committee, because they are a member of that, and that's where they plead their case regularly and actively participate throughout the year. Then obviously at the bottom of the bottom arrow there, the scouts, the parents, and the leaders in formal and informal settings. And finally, to the right, the chartered organization itself, clergy, faith-based organizations. So this chart, I hope it's helpful, not confusing. As I said, you can access it on the web. But this kind of shows some of the interrelation that I want to talk about. There are a few key areas that are essential to achieving our goal of more youth involved in completing religious emblems. So the setting and reaching of goals, the number of emblems earned, there are many ways that that can be kept and highlighted, certainly by faith group, as well as by district and by unit. All of this goes together to working with the UREC and the district REC. The council information is gathered together. Another goal, number of presentations made to units. Earlier information was talking about unit leaders making these presentations, and certainly that's fine, but hopefully every unit would also have a religious emblems coordinator. This is not just for faith-based units. Every unit should have a religious emblems coordinator, and in some ways perhaps it's even more important in some of the non-faith-based units because the linkage already may exist in many of the faith-based units. But the UREC makes those presentations, unit leaders can do that, and then, of course, involving the district REC are the team. So how many presentations are made to units? That's important to be done at the district level, certainly, and even on up to the council level, because the ultimate goal is getting the information to the leaders and the scouts so that something can be done about it. There are a number of congregations offering religious emblems classes. This is an important coordination factor as well, because there are groups that are already having special events and training opportunities, or doing 10 Commandment or Scout Law hikes and so forth. Many times they're open to the council, or they may be district events, but I've never really encountered an attitude of, well, you can't come. So even if it's not in your district, this is another one of those ways where there is a give and take and a support of one another. Then, of course, the number of religious emblems special events by council and district. We mentioned the fact that those may happen, but one of the things that could really boost the utilization of religious emblems would be to establish such events. That is something that would be done primarily by the Council Religious Relationships Committee or a specific faith group, but the RECs at all levels can be catalysts to helping make this happen. The number of leader training event presentations, because it starts with informing our leadership. I mentioned a few minutes ago that there is a webinar upcoming about University of Scouting and powwow and College of Commissioner Science presentations. We are currently working with, at the national level, with the Commissioner Service, even in having some modules that relate to duty to God and religious emblems. So we're working even at the national level there. And certainly by district, roundtables and other training events. I'm not simply listing any. What I'm suggesting is that this is kind of the game plan. How many leader training event presentations are needed? That's where the goal would actually come in, the setting of the numbers. A number of religious emblems, promotions, and displays. Really, the sky is the limit on how many could be done, but in order to set a goal and to reach it, you obviously need to make a list of some of those. So that's why I mentioned these. The council banquet, certainly an exhibit. Nothing has to even be said. Simply a staffed exhibit there would help. The camporees and scout shows surely would badge, and summer camp and day camp, OA events, professional staff training, Cub Family Adventure, day camp, youth training of all sorts, College of Commissioner Science, University Scouting. You can make a longer list. Maybe some of those are not as widely attended in your council, but there are others. So setting a goal for this causes us to sit down and really make a list of what's the potential, and then to set a realistic number there. The number of religious emblems, promotions, and displays by district. I would simply say what we've already said about the council. You need to look at what are some of the prospects, whether it's a banquet or a camporee or a training event or some other special event, or there are many of them. And only you really would know at the district level and in the council what those are at the district level. Absolutely essential are displays at the unit level. By going through, making a list, now would be a very good time to do that. How can you access the parents and the scouts? Some of these times through actually a presentation. Other times, though, a display set up somewhere in the room is a reminder of how important it is to look at religious emblems and the religious emblems of all the various faith groups. So think about that at the unit level, whether it's special events like the Blue and Gold Banquet or Course of Honor. Surely Scout Sunday is a prime one. Demonstrating for people is awfully important. I was at Philmont Training Center one year on a discussion about Scout Sunday, and the suggestion one particular unit leader made was that they have a demo camp on Scout Sunday. They set up a campsite just like they would on a camp out and invite members to come before and after the services and to see what's going on. I mentioned that because in the units that I've been involved with, we very rarely fail to get at least one new scout from a demo camp because they saw what was happening and they wanted to be involved. I think the same is true of religious emblems, that by having the emblems available, by showing the materials, you'll have greater participation. Think of the chartered organization and its websites as well as the unit's websites. Surely, again, the chartered organization and unit mailouts, our newsletters, a simple mention in the order of worship on bulletin boards or posters in the organization facilities are all good reminders. So why do I list those? Simply so that when you set a number of emblems, promotions, or displays, you'll go ahead and make the list to see how you can match and meet that goal. Certainly the number of religious emblems introductory courses. These are very warmly received by parents and religious leaders and by scouts as well. We will be giving more information, although right now on the PRAYPub.org website there is a plethora of information about how to do religious emblems camps, our Duty to God camps. There are a zillion different ways those are described, but that is a wonderful way of getting kids started in the program. If they can go back home from having gotten into the material and checked off several of the requirements, then they're more likely to get involved and complete the process. Also, these religious emblems courses are a great way to introduce the Duty to God patches, the puzzle patches, and although it's certainly not a religious emblems, the patches, it is a good reminder for them to complete the process. And all kinds of orientations for parents, even at summer camp visitation. I've heard about several of those recently that were very warmly received. Still in setting and reaching goals, a number of emblems, presentations, and recognitions there you see by council. Surely one possibility for recognizing those who receive the emblems would be a Council Religious Emblems Award Banquet, or some special faith-based organization presentation like the Bishop's Presentation Day. There are some Catholic dioceses that every year on Scout Sunday, or at least around that time, have something at the cathedral where the Scouts completing their religious emblems are recognized. So these are places to not only promote, but to encourage to have such special events. The District Religious Emblems Award Banquets, there are some districts that are doing that. And certainly Scout Sunday or Scout Sabbath should be observed with every faith-based unit at least, and that's 70% of all of our units are faith-based. Courts of honor and the like. Now, how do we coordinate all the work of the council, the district, and the unit religious emblems coordinator? I would say to you that this is not the final word. It's still continuing to develop. And so you can be a part of that process. You can make suggestions. But here are some suggestions to start with. And the obvious thing is that communication is the key. If about 5% or so of the Scouts now receive their religious emblem, communication is one of the biggest challenges to why they're not more. I have never made a presentation where we found a lack of interest among the Scouts. I realize that maybe that they simply want to wear the medal, and that's fine because that does get them into the program. But communicating to the key audiences of the Scouts, the parents, and the leaders, and certainly the faith groups, I would suggest a 3-part communication plan. And you notice that I've underlined the word A, just one letter, but it is important, I would say, because this is a 3-point plan, not the 3-point plan. This is simply one that you could consider. I would say, first of all, that when we're thinking of these 3, of the council, district, and unit religious emblems coordinator, meet strategically. What I mean by this is not a lot of meetings. There needs to be a clearly defined purpose for meeting. We're not trying to add to the lists of meetings that people are attending. Then email regularly. If you have email, you have the ingredient you need to do this, and that's a great way with communicating with a lot of people in a relatively brief period of time. And then share constantly. By that I mean free flow in both directions. As we looked at that diagram earlier, you notice that the arrows went both directions. So it's not all filtering up to the person at the top and everybody else exists to serve the one at the top. It is a circle like you see at the bottom right of the screen where it is interrelational. So meet strategically, email regularly, and share constantly. I'm suggesting that council and district RECs particularly, they do meet strategically, at least once a quarter. Now, is once a quarter magical? No, it's certainly not. But the point being that it is regular. There are times in the year, certainly getting started this off, but maybe it's a monthly meeting. But in a general moving forward pattern, I think a quarterly meeting is probably adequate. Then participate when possible in council and district annual planning. That's where you'll make sure that religious emblems are represented in the program, whether that's by exhibit or presentation. And then become fully engaged on the council and district advancement committees. As a council and district REC, you are a member of those committees, and you need to fully participate because the more that know and understand about religious emblems, the better progress we'll make. And let's look at a moment at the district and unit RECs, and they're meeting strategically. I'm suggesting, and this is here again, just a suggestion, remember it said a plan, at least every 6 months to establish and maintain communication as well as coordinate efforts. This is up to you as to how that is to happen, but there are just times when meeting face-to-face is a really good idea. And just like other meetings in Scouts, not everybody will be there, but the ones that are can share and brainstorm and encourage one another and strengthen the whole idea of religious emblems promotion and achievement. Now, council, district, and union RECs emailing regularly. Establish an ongoing communication through the use of email, not just helter-skelter. Yeah, if any late-breaking news, surely you'd want to do that, and the sooner the better. But it is a good idea to have people expecting regular emails, not flooding the mailbox. That is would not be warmly received at all. I think people need to recognize that email is going to come when there's really something to say, and that they're not constantly bombarded with email. So use it judiciously, but do use it. Council, district, and unit REC sharing constantly. That's the third part. Establish that timely delivery system for the religious usage data. Share it whenever you get it. Encourage others that are using proven methods and stories. Share that constantly as the opportunity arises. And then distribute information on special events and classes. As Murphy's Law will have it on occasion, you sometimes find out this information just after that regularly scheduled meeting or email. So there certainly are occasions where you need to be sharing constantly. So all three are important. Meet strategically and judiciously, email regularly, and then share constantly. Well, here's the overall picture. RECs relating to and working together. This is not a hierarchy. You'll notice these are side by side. And the more of those little yellow circles that we can have on there, the better, because those are outreaches and special events. They're not necessarily special events that you even plan, but they are places where you can make an impact on religious emblems, and that's certainly very important. I do want to point out to you, you notice that the unit chaplain and the unit religious emblems coordinator, because at the unit level there could be some confusion about, well, we already have a chaplain, why do we need a unit religious emblems coordinator? Well, let me say that there are a few chaplains that have said, well, can I serve in this capacity? Well, this is a volunteer-run organization, and we're not going to tell you you can't. And if you have that strong interest in doing so, wonderful. But my thought is that unless you have a highly motivated person who wants to do that and asks to do that, we're already trying to find unit chaplains, and we don't want to add another 8 responsibilities to the listing for a unit chaplain. So could they be the same? They could. Should they be the same? My strong opinion is they should not, except in rare exceptions. But you do notice number 5 on the unit chaplain, encourage scouts and adventurers to participate in the religious emblem program of their respective faith. And then number 4 on REC, urge all youth in the unit to earn religious emblems of their faith. That is obviously a very similar statement. The others are supportive of one another, but they are not duplications. So I strongly encourage you to enlist a UREC as well as a unit chaplain. We've given you a lot of information, and we've given it to you in a hurry, really. So I want to now pause and draw a breath. And Deb, do we have any questions yet?
No, Chip, I think you flabbergasted them. We have
I can believe that.
We have a quiet crowd today. If you are listening and have comments or questions, remember you need to type them in your question box, and you have to hit that send, that submit button, and we can read your questions and Chip can respond to them.
Right. We're not going to prolong the webinar, but neither do we want to rush. This is your time, and if you don't have any questions, that's fine. But if you do, we'll wait another moment to let you do that. And if it appears, we will answer it. Our goal here is to simply provide some structure to begin somewhere. I know not every council and district will do it the same way, and that's fine as long as the goal is reached. I already see, and what I mentioned to you earlier, the fact that more and more faith groups are creating procedures to get the information down to the council, district, and unit level, so that we can be more supportive of religious emblems. So I'm not saying this is the final chapter at all. I did notice any talk about including religious emblems in Journey to Excellence. That question, or a form thereof, comes up at most webinars. The short-term answer is that there is not. However, there is a recognition by the folks at the National BSA that religious emblems and the involvement in religious emblems is a good idea. So I don't know, bottom line, whether that will find its way into Journey to Excellence, but we do contribute to the success of Journey to Excellence by involving young people and their families in religious emblems, because that contributes to longevity and unit strength. So, Chris, that's kind of a yes and no. At the present time, there's not a specific discussion on that, but there is a recognition that that contributes to Journey to Excellence. Alan has asked about how does the UREC position relate to the chaplain aid? I think that is one of those situations where if the unit has a unit chaplain, you can work together. Certainly the chaplain aide is a key player. Hopefully every Boy Scout troop will have one, and they can be assisted in getting information, how to know about the various religious emblems. I think that would be a great idea in a meeting, for instance, with parents or a court of honor or the like, to involve the chaplain's aide in helping. Whether if you feel they can help with part of the presentation, fine, but even in simply distributing the materials, if we have highly motivated chaplain aide, then they'll be more effective, and we will help contribute to their success. One of the things that we see at jamborees, because we do ask that every Boy Scout, every unit coming there has a chaplain aide, and the more that that position is elevated and Scouts come to understand that there is a very viable purpose for that position, the stronger the chaplain aide position will be. So I would strongly encourage a relationship there. If you have a troop chaplain, I would just make sure that we're all in sync in that process. But we all are interested in completion of more religious emblems. I don't see any other questions at this point. So what I would like to do is to thank you very much for participating today, and share with your friends if you have others that you feel like would benefit from this discussion and maybe even contribute to the discussion. We will have another live session of this tomorrow evening, and we welcome them to sign up. I want to thank you for joining us today and helping us all learn in the process of how we can relate to district and council and unit religious emblems coordinators, and they are in a continual circle of support and response to meet the needs of our Boy Scouts, our Cub Scouts, our Venturers, and our entire family. Thanks so very much for joining us today.